Picture this. You're walking through the Amazon rainforest when suddenly the ground trembles beneath your feet. Trees begin swaying without wind, and then you see it. A serpentine shadow moving through the canopy above, easily 50 feet long and thicker than a telephone pole. This isn't some Hollywood nightmare. This is what our world might look like if the most terrifying predator in Earth's history had never disappeared. Today, we're diving into the spine-chilling reality of what would happen if Titanoboa still ruled our planet. Before we explore this nightmare scenario, let me paint you a picture of what we're dealing with. Titanoboa wasn't just any snake. It was the ultimate apex predator of its time. Living roughly 60 million years ago, this prehistoric monster stretched up to 50 feet in length and weighed over a ton. To put that in perspective, imagine a school bus that can slither, swim, and crush the life out of anything it encounters. The largest anaconda today maxes out at around 30 feet, making Titanoboa nearly twice as long and exponentially more massive. But here's where things get really interesting and terrifying. If Titanoboa had survived to the modern era, our entire understanding of ecosystems, human civilization, and even our place on this planet would be fundamentally different. The ripple effects would be so profound that the world we know today might never have existed. Let's start with the most obvious question. Could humans have ever become the dominant species on Earth? The answer might shock you. Early human ancestors who ventured down from the trees would have faced an entirely different set of challenges. Instead of just worrying about lions, leopards, and hyenas, our predecessors would have had to contend with a predator capable of swallowing them whole without even needing to unhinge its jaw. Think about early human settlements along rivers and wetlands, the very places where civilization began. These areas would have been Titanoboa territory. Rivers provided the perfect hunting grounds for these massive serpents, offering both aquatic prey and unsuspecting land animals coming to drink. Ancient Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization, it might never have developed if massive serpents controlled every waterway. The psychological impact alone would have been staggering. Humans developed complex mythologies around much smaller snakes. Imagine the terror and reverence inspired by creatures the size of subway cars. Entire religions might have been built around appeasing these serpent gods. Art, literature, and cultural development would have taken dramatically different paths, shaped by the constant threat of these apex predators. But let's get scientific about this. How would Titanoboa's continued existence have shaped evolution itself? The presence of such a massive predator would have created evolutionary pressure unlike anything we see today. Large mammals might never have evolved to their current sizes, as being too big would make them prime targets for Titanoboa. Alternatively, we might have seen the evolution of truly gigantic mammals, creatures so large that even Titanoboa couldn't take them down. Consider the African savanna, home to elephants, lions, and countless other species. With Titanoboa present, the entire ecosystem would be structured differently. Water sources would become death traps, fundamentally altering migration patterns and species distribution. Elephants might have evolved to avoid water entirely, or developed defensive behaviors we can't even imagine. The great migrations of wildebeest and zebra would have to navigate not just crocodiles and lions, but serpents capable of taking down entire herds. The marine implications are equally fascinating and terrifying. Modern Titanoboa relatives were excellent swimmers, and there's no reason to believe the original couldn't handle both fresh and saltwater environments. Coastal civilizations would face threats from both land and sea. Ancient maritime trade routes might never have developed, as ships would be vulnerable to attacks from creatures capable of capsizing vessels through sheer mass alone. Now here's where the story takes an even more dramatic turn. What if Titanoboa had evolved alongside humans? 60 million years is an enormous span of time for evolutionary development. Modern snakes have evolved remarkable adaptations. Some can glide through the air, others have developed heat-sensing capabilities that border on supernatural. An evolved Titanoboa might possess abilities that make the original seem tame by comparison. Imagine a creature that retained its massive size but developed enhanced intelligence, similar to how crocodilians have remained relatively unchanged while becoming remarkably cunning hunters. A modern Titanoboa might be capable of problem-solving, tool use, or even rudimentary communication. The thought of a 50-foot snake that can outsmart its prey is the stuff of nightmares. Climate would play a crucial role in this scenario. The original Titanoboa lived in a much warmer world when global temperatures were significantly higher than today. If these creatures had survived through various climate changes, they might have developed remarkable adaptability. They could have evolved seasonal hibernation patterns, migration behaviors, or even temperature regulation mechanisms that allowed them to thrive in diverse environments. The technological implications for human civilization are staggering to consider. Military development would have taken entirely different paths. Instead of focusing primarily on human warfare, we would have developed weapons and strategies for dealing with massive serpentine threats. Architecture would be fundamentally different. Buildings would need to be designed to keep out creatures that could easily break through standard walls. Urban planning would require considerations we can't even imagine today. Transportation systems would be revolutionized. Railways running through Titanoboa territory would need extensive protection. Aircraft might be the primary mode of long-distance travel, as ground transportation would be incredibly dangerous in many regions. The development of the automobile might have been accelerated, as enclosed vehicles would provide protection that horseback riding couldn't offer. Agricultural development presents another fascinating angle. Farming in areas populated by Titanoboa would require extensive protective measures. We might have developed underground farming systems or elevated agricultural platforms to keep crops and livestock safe. The domestication of animals would follow different patterns. We'd likely focus on creatures that could either defend themselves against massive snakes or were small enough to avoid detection. Medical science would have evolved along different trajectories as well. Understanding snake venoms and developing antivenoms would be crucial for human survival. We might have made breakthrough discoveries in toxicology and pharmacology centuries earlier than we did in our timeline. The study of reptilian biology would be far more advanced, potentially leading to medical innovations we haven't even considered. From an ecological perspective, the continued existence of Titanoboa would maintain what scientists call a top predator effect throughout history. These creatures would regulate populations of large mammals, potentially preventing overgrazing and maintaining biodiversity in ways we're only beginning to understand. The Amazon rainforest might be even more pristine and diverse, shaped by millions of years of Titanoboa presence. But here's a twist that might surprise you. The existence of Titanoboa could have actually accelerated certain aspects of human development. The constant threat would have forced our ancestors to become more innovative, more cooperative, and more technologically advanced at a faster pace. The need to defend against such predators might have led to earlier development of metallurgy, engineering, and organized warfare. Communication systems would have evolved differently too. Early warning networks would be crucial for survival. We might have developed complex signaling systems to warn of Titanoboa presence, leading to more sophisticated communication technologies earlier in human history. The internet might have been invented centuries sooner, driven by the need for rapid information sharing about predator movements. Conservation efforts in our hypothetical modern world would focus heavily on Titanoboa management. These creatures would likely be endangered due to habitat loss and human expansion, creating complex ethical dilemmas. Should we protect creatures that pose such a significant threat to human life? How do we balance ecosystem health with human safety? These questions would dominate environmental policy. The tourism industry would be both devastated and revolutionized. While many areas would be too dangerous for conventional tourism, extreme adventure tourism might thrive. Imagine the thrill seekers who would pay enormous sums for the chance to observe Titanoboa in their natural habitat, protected by cutting-edge technology and expert guides. Scientific research would be incredibly advanced in herpetology and related fields. We'd have detailed understanding of snake behavior, physiology, and ecology that far exceeds our current knowledge. This research might have led to breakthrough discoveries in biomechanics, materials science, and even robotics, as engineers attempted to replicate Titanoboa's incredible strength and flexibility. The entertainment industry would be dramatically different. Movies, books, and games would be filled with Titanoboa-inspired content. But rather than being pure fiction, these would be based on real-world threats and experiences. The horror genre might be less fantastical and more focused on survival against actual existing monsters. Educational systems would necessarily include extensive training on Titanoboa safety from an early age. Children would learn snake identification, escape techniques, and emergency emergency procedures as naturally as they learn to look both ways before crossing the street. This practical education might lead to more robust, survival-focused curricula overall. International relations could be affected by Titanoboa distribution. Countries with large populations of these creatures might be economically disadvantaged due to the challenges of resource extraction and development. Alternatively, they might become centers of scientific research and ecotourism, creating new forms of international cooperation and competition. As we wrap up this terrifying journey through an alternate timeline, it's worth considering the broader implications. The continued existence of Titanoboa would create a world where humans are not the undisputed rulers of the planet. We would live in constant acknowledgement that we share our world with creatures that, in many ways, are superior to us in terms of physical capability. This humbling presence might have made us better stewards of the environment, more respectful of nature's power, and more innovative in our approaches to coexistence with other species. Or it might have made us more aggressive, more paranoid, and more focused on domination and control. What's certain is that our world would be unrecognizably different, more dangerous, more exciting, and definitely more humbling. The next time you're walking through a forest or swimming in a lake, take a moment to appreciate the relative safety of our snake-free world. Because in another timeline, every step into nature would be a calculated risk, every body of water a potential death trap, and every day a reminder that humans are not the only apex predators on this planet. The reign of Titanoboa would have created a world where survival of the fittest takes on an entirely new meaning, and where the biggest, strongest, and most terrifying predator in history still calls the shots.